The secret to managing time effectively. Have you ever felt like there just isn't enough time in a day? Like no matter how early you wake up or how hard you work, the hours seem to vanish before you've done even half of what you planned? What if I told you that the secret to managing time isn't about clocks, planners, or schedules, but about understanding life itself? This is the story of an old clockmaker named Aaron, a curious young boy named Leo, and a small wooden clock that taught an entire village the true meaning of time. In the quiet valley of Arendelle, where the sun painted the rooftops gold each morning and the river hummed softly through the meadows, stood a small clock shop. It wasn't fancy or grand, but everyone in the village knew it as Aaron's Clocks. The wooden sign above the door had faded from years of sunlight and rain, yet every clock inside ticked in perfect rhythm, like the heartbeat of the village itself. Aaron, the old clockmaker, lived alone. His silver hair shimmered like moonlight, his back was slightly bent, and his hands trembled from decades of delicate work. But his eyes still sparkled with the same brightness as when he was young. There was something peaceful about him, something timeless. People said Aaron could fix any clock, no matter how broken. But what they didn't know was that Aaron's true gift wasn't in fixing time. It was in understanding it. One crisp morning, as children ran past the shop laughing, a boy named Leo stopped by the dusty window. Inside, he saw hundreds of clocks, round, square, wooden, golden, all ticking in harmony. But right in the center of the shop sat one small wooden clock. Unlike the rest, it wasn't ticking. Its hands were still. Curious, Leo pushed the creaky door open. The small chime above the door jingled softly, and the scent of old wood filled the air. "Good morning, young one," Aaron said without looking up from his workbench. "You seem drawn to that silent clock." "Yes, sir," Leo replied. "It's beautiful, but it's not moving." Aaron smiled, his eyes kind. "Ah, yes. That one stopped long ago. But I've kept it here for a reason." "Why?" Leo asked, stepping closer. "Don't broken clocks remind you of time lost?" Aaron chuckled quietly. "Sometimes, my boy, a silent clock can teach more than a ticking one." Leo didn't understand, but he didn't question it further. Something about the old man's words lingered in his heart. From that day on, Leo began visiting the shop every afternoon after school. He swept the floors, polished the glass cases, and listened to the endless ticking that filled the little shop. There was something comforting about that sound. It was as if time itself was breathing gently around him. As the weeks turned into months, Aaron started teaching Leo the art of clockmaking. He showed him how to align gears, polish pendulums, and adjust the smallest screws. Then one afternoon, Aaron handed Leo a small wooden box. "Inside," he said, "is a clock kit. I want you to build your own." "Me?" Leo gasped. "But I don't know how." Aaron nodded. "And that is precisely why you must try. Time is the greatest teacher. Every mistake will show you where you are." Leo took the box home and worked on it night after night. But every time he thought he had done it right, something went wrong. The gears jammed, the hands stuck, or the pendulum swung unevenly. After several failed attempts, he stormed back into Aaron's shop. "It's useless!" he cried. "No matter how hard I try, the clock won't tick." Aaron didn't scold him. Instead, he walked to the window and pointed outside. "Do you see that tree, Leo?" "Yes," the boy replied, confused. "That tree was once a tiny seed. It didn't grow overnight. It waited through rain, through storms, through sun and wind. Yet now it stands tall and gives shade to everyone who passes. You must learn to wait, too." Leo frowned. "But I feel like I'm wasting time." Aaron smiled softly. "There is no wasted time when you are learning. Time only becomes wasted when you stop trying." Leo went home and began again. This time, he worked slower, paying attention to every sound, every detail, every gear. Days turned into weeks, and one morning, as he made the final adjustment, he heard it tick, tick, tick. His heart leaped. "It's working!" he shouted. He ran through the village to Aaron's shop, bursting through the door. "Master Aaron, my clock is alive." Aaron examined the clock carefully and nodded. "Beautifully done, Leo. Tell me, what did you learn?" Leo thought for a moment. "That I shouldn't rush, that each mistake taught me something, that patience makes things stronger." Aaron's eyes twinkled. "Exactly! You've just discovered the first secret of time patience." Seasons changed, and life in Arendelle moved gently, like the river that ran beside it. But one winter, a terrible storm swept through the valley. The river overflowed, flooding homes and shops, including Aaron's. When the storm passed, the little shop was filled with broken wood, shattered glass, and waterlogged clocks. For the first time, the room was silent. Aaron stood in the middle of the wreckage, his shoulders heavy. Leo rushed in, panic on his face. "Master, we can fix them. We'll rebuild everything." But Aaron shook his head. "Some things, my boy, are not meant to be fixed." Leo's voice trembled. "Then what will you do?" Aaron smiled faintly. "I will rest. I have spent my life keeping time. Now it is time to let time keep me." That night, Aaron fell ill. The villagers visited, bringing warm soup and blankets, but his strength faded with every passing hour. Leo stayed by his bedside, holding the small wooden clock they had built together. Before dawn, Aaron whispered, "Leo, remember this. The secret to managing time is not in keeping it, but in understanding how to live within it." Those were his final words. When the morning light touched the valley, Aaron was gone. The village mourned deeply, for they hadn't just lost a craftsman, they had lost a teacher of life. Weeks later, when the storm's damage had been cleared, Leo reopened the small shop, but he changed the sign above the door. It no longer read Aaron's Clocks. It now said, "The House of Time," by Leo and Aaron. He repaired what he could, but the shop became more than a place for clocks. It became a place for wisdom. Children began to visit him after school, just as he had once done. They listened to his stories, his gentle laughter, and his quiet lessons about patience and purpose. One afternoon, a young girl named Mara came in, her face full of frustration. "I can't make it work," she cried, holding a half-built clock. "The gears keep getting stuck." Leo smiled softly. "Tell me, what are you thinking when you work on it?" "I just want to finish quickly," she admitted. "Ah," Leo said, "then your hands are moving faster than your heart. Slow down. Let your hands and your heart move together. That's how time listens." The girl looked puzzled, but she tried again. Days later, she came running into the shop, her eyes shining. "It's working!" Leo nodded proudly. "Good. You've learned what time has been trying to tell you all along." In that moment, Leo finally understood Aaron's lesson fully. Managing time was never about doing more. It was about being present in whatever you do. Years passed, and Leo grew older. The shop became a symbol of peace and wisdom. People came not just to repair their clocks, but to reflect on their lives. One afternoon, a wealthy merchant arrived in the village. He wore fine clothes, carried a golden pocket watch, and looked restless. He entered Leo's shop and frowned. "How can you work in this place, surrounded by all this noise? All these ticking sounds? Don't they drive you mad?" Leo chuckled. "To me, these sounds are not noise. They are reminders that life is still moving forward." The merchant smirked. "You sound like a philosopher. Tell me then, what's your secret to managing time? I have money, power, and plans. yet I'm always running late." Leo looked around the room and picked up a small wooden clock from the shelf, the same silent one that had once belonged to Aaron. Its hands were still frozen. He handed it to the merchant. "This clock has never ticked since the day my master gave it to me. Yet it reminds me of a truth, that sometimes the most meaningful moments in life happen when time stands still." The merchant raised an eyebrow. "You mean rest?" Leo smiled. "Rest, reflection, gratitude, patience, all the things time teaches us, but we are too busy to hear." The merchant said nothing. He stared at the silent clock for a long time, then quietly thanked Leo and left, clutching it close to his chest. As the sun began to set that evening, Leo sat by the window of his shop, watching the fading light. The gentle ticking of dozens of clocks filled the room. He looked at the old wooden clock and whispered, "Thank you, Master Aaron. Your lessons still live on." And in that moment, a strange peace filled the air, as if the entire world had paused for just a second to listen. Time, Leo realized, was never meant to be conquered or controlled. It was meant to be understood, appreciated, and lived with grace. So what does this story teach us? Time isn't an enemy. It isn't a race. It's a companion, a quiet teacher walking beside us. Every sunrise, every delay, every setback carries a lesson if we have the patience to listen. The secret to managing time effectively isn't about squeezing more hours into a day. It's about giving more meaning to the hours you already have. It's about being present, grateful, and focused on what truly matters. When we stop chasing time and start embracing it, we discover that we've had enough of it all along. So the next time you feel overwhelmed or rushed, remember the story of Aaron and Leo the clockmaker and his student, who learned that the real measure of time is not in seconds or hours, but in how deeply you live each moment. And as you listen to this story, perhaps ask yourself, what will you do with your next hour? Will you rush through it? Or will you live within it? Because time, my friend, is not just something we measure. It's something we feel. It's something we become. And maybe, just maybe, the real secret to managing time is learning to live in harmony with it. So take a breath, slow down, be here now. That is where time truly exists. And if this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might need the same reminder. Leave a thought, a reflection, or even a silent thank you for the moments that shape your days. Because sometimes, all we need is a gentle echo of wisdom to remind us that the most precious thing we have is time.